welcome. Our practice today is going to be about forward folding and how to up-level your forward fold. So for many of us, these can be really challenging postures on our lower back. A few weeks ago, we did a practice for low back. Some of you may have done that one. And these are poses that are known to, create some discomfort in our lower back. They can aggravate things that are already going on in our lower back. But if done correctly, these can be really wonderful postures for kind of lengthening our spine, tractioning our spine, also calming our nervous system. When we fold forward, this is a going within kind of position. So it just gives us that sense of calm and peace. But we want to keep a few things in mind when we are practicing forward folds so that we don't further aggravate our hamstrings or our lower back. So particularly if you have a flattened lower back, tightness in your hamstrings, these are poses that we definitely want to modify. So I'll give options along the way so we can keep it safe for everybody. And those of you who want to can go into a deeper version of the postures. So a few things to keep in mind. We want to make sure that we always have that lower back curve. So when we're folding forward, we don't want to kind of round into our lower back. We want to keep that sacrum, top of the sacrum joint in. So I'll be cueing you on that, and we'll be doing some particular flows that will emphasize that. Excuse me. Also, having a little bend in the knee can be helpful for those of us who have that flatness in our lower back, because we want to make sure that we fold at our hip creases. So for many of us with that flattened lower back and tightness in the hamstrings, we want to fold forward. We do it from here, from our kind of our waist, and then all it does is round our back, and we don't really get very far. So we want to practice spinal extension as we do our forward folds. So those are a couple things that we'll keep in mind. Also, I just wanted to share a little reading with you about the benefits of forward folds. So forward bends ask the spine to move into the primary curve, which is the shape that it assumes within the womb. Just as back bends are stimulating and exhilarating, forward bends are soothing and calming. The back bends open the front of the body. So we go back, we open this, which is how we interact with the world in the front of the body. And then forward bends fold inward on the front of the body. On an energetic and emotional level, forward bends ask us to be content with slowing down and looking within. More than any other group of postures, forward bends require surrender and patience. Funnily enough, the attitude of a forward bend is a little like bowing, the attitude of humility, teaching us the true meaning of yoga. Flexibility cannot be achieved by force, only with patient persistence. So we never want to pull or yank ourselves into a forward fold. In this way, forward bends teach us that not everything can be achieved by determination, force. We must learn to do our best with an attitude of love, and then let go of attachments to the results. And then the biomechanics of forward folding. The physical aim of a forward bend is to stretch out any tightness and tissues along the entire surface of our back body. From the connective tissue on the soles of our feet all the way up, the back of the leg, and all the way up our spine, the back of the hips, the connective tissue at the back of the torso, and across the back of the shoulders, and even gently the ligaments between the spinal vertebra themselves. So really opening up this whole back chain of the body from our feet all the way up to our neck. So that's what we're going to work on today. We're going to need possibly a strap, particularly those of you who have that limitation in your hamstrings. Blocks are probably going to be helpful. We're going to use a little bit of adductor work on the inner thighs, and of course some blankets are always useful. All right, so we're going to start on our backs, and I'm going to ask that you have a folded blanket I'd like you to make a loop in your strap. So I'll give you a moment to get that ready if you don't have one. Okay, so the length of the loop is going to depend on your flexibility, also the length of your legs and your arms. So you may need to play with this. So I've got it maybe a foot to two feet, but I'm pretty short, so yours is probably going to need to be a little bit bigger than mine. So get that ready. I'm going to grab my drink and we'll get settled on our back. All right. So we'll come down and we're going to take a few moments just to kind of settle in, and then we'll have that strap nearby. So go ahead and come down onto your back, take a few breaths. Alright, so let's take a few slow, deep breaths in through your nose and then out through your mouth. In through your nose and sigh it out through your mouth. And one more time, in through your nose and sigh it out. And actually, let's take that blanket out for just a moment, because we're going to do a couple full body stretches, and that way it won't be in our way. And then we'll come back to having that blanket under the head when we begin our hamstring work. So on your next inhale, let's reach the arms overhead. We're going to stretch long through the arms and the toes, really lengthen the side of the body. So this is an important aspect of forward folds. We don't want shortening in here, we want length. And reach one side to the other. And then come back to center. Point your toes, inhale, stretch, and maybe lift your chest a little bit. Arch your back, press your shoulders down. And then as you exhale, melt into the ground. Just kind of awakening those spinal muscles. Inhale, reach a little arch to your back. Feel the back muscles contract as you press down into your arms, your shoulders, and lift here into your chest and your ribs, and then release. So I call it the back bend before the forward bend. We want to get those spinal muscles awakened. One more time, inhale, stretch. Reach, 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 arch your back away from the ground, contract your back muscles, and then melt back down. Okay, so now let's pull that blanket back in underneath your head. This is very helpful, especially if we have a lot of rounding in our back. It will help keep the body in a more neutral position. Now, we're going to grab that strap. We're going to take the right leg up and put the foot in the strap, and you'll have that loop. Just hang your tail off to the side. And I'm going to turn it so that the buckle is somewhere in the middle point, because I'm going to slide my hands in here and it won't feel good to have the metal pressing into my hands. And I'm going to bring my palms together into a prayer position. And arms are straight. Now your pose might look different than this. Your strap may be way longer, your leg might be further away, and your leg might have a bend in it. All of those things are okay, right? So we're going to have a micro bend in the knee, but still reaching up through the heel. We're going to try and firm the front of the leg. So the quadricep is like a sister to our hamstrings, which are on the back. So they're opposing muscle groups. We call it reciprocal inhibition. When I engage my quad on the front of the leg, it helps to stretch and relax the back of the leg. So firm your quad without jamming your knee, so a little micro bend there. Spread out through your toes, open up through the sole of your foot. So that's part of that fascia that is on the back chain of our body. Now, arms are straight, palms pressing. but shoulders are down. They're not hiked up, rounding my back, keeping the shoulders relaxed. Come back to your breath here. We're making sure that we have a little curve in the lower back as well. So try not to flatten. You should be able to slide your hand right there under your lower back. And with your breath, you might find that as you hold this, you can start to move your palms towards your head ever so slightly. Now I'm going to create resistance by pressing my foot into the strap as I pull my hands toward me, keeping that little micro bend, keeping the tailbone lengthening, and the curve in my lower back. And as I exhale, I might be able to bring that leg a little bit closer. But I'm keeping a little resistance there, so I'm not just yanking this way. I'm keeping a slight tension on the muscle. Firming up the front of the leg. We're going to hold for a few more breaths if you can. And then drawing in through the lower belly as you exhale. One more. Maybe I'm going to go a little bit more, but no forcing. Keep that tension in both directions. And then we're going to slowly release and bring that knee into your chest. Okay, let's switch sides. Taking the strap around the other foot. Make sure that that loop, the metal of the loop, if you have a metal loop or a plastic buckle, is not by your hands. And put your palms together inside the loop. Now my right leg could be bent, could be straight, up to you. Straighten the arms, spread the toes. Find that curve in your lower back by letting the tailbone get a little heavier, but keeping shoulders down. Finding that tension by pushing the foot into the strap, pulling towards you, and the kneecap, we want to make sure the kneecap is facing straight ahead, not turned out, rotated at all, have a neutral leg. And then as you exhale, you might find that you can draw in a little bit closer. Firm up the front of your leg. And as you exhale, draw in through your lower belly. And then even if it's incrementally small, just a little bit of moving that leg towards you if it's available. Remember, no forcing, no yanking. It's just what's allowing. What is your body allowing in this position? Let's take 2 more breaths. After that second breath, we're going to slowly release it. Take your strap, set aside, and hug your knee into your chest. Let's bring both knees in now and rock a little bit side to side. Across your lower back. Alright, let's roll to the side and we're going to come on up and we'll come into a seated posture. So we're going to come into a bound angle position with the soles of the feet together. So our hip external rotators can be part of the limitation in our forward folds. So the muscles that join our leg bone, our femur bone to our pelvis can greatly restrict our rotational movement around the pelvis. The external rotator muscles of the hips all connect to the head of our leg bone, our femur bone, to various points on our pelvis. They're arranged like fans. And then one of them, the piriformis muscle, which we've addressed before in some of these videos, connects to our sacrum. So it's that bone at the base of our spine. And then that is connected to and articulates to the spine. And that, when that's tight, can help limit us from forward folding. So by doing this particular pose, opening up the legs here, the external rotators, we can get a little bit benefit toward our forward folds. Now you can stay upright, or if you wish, you can forward fold a little bit here. The soles of the feet together and the knees are drawing energetically apart, but we're not yanking, forcing the knees down. So if these muscles are tight, the thigh bones will want to rotate outward, which they're doing right now. But that's not as helpful in a pose such as a straight leg forward bend. We'll address that a little bit later. Let's take about 5 more breaths here. I want to keep you here for a little bit of time. So when the thigh bones rotate outward in a forward fold, you can stay there, but here I'm going to rotate my thigh bones outward. It's going to limit what I can do in my forward fold. Tight external rotator muscles also shorten the gap between the head of our femur and the pelvis to such a degree that it can cause our pelvis to tip backwards instead of forward. So as I'm folding forward, my pelvis is tipping forward into more of an anterior tilt as opposed to tipping backward, which is going to round my spine. So I've got to get that pelvis to rotate around the femur bones if I want to have a forward fold that's not going to create pain in my lower back. So any attempt to bend further from this position means that the movement has to happen at the junction between the pelvis and the spine and in the lower lumbar vertebra. This can place strain on this area of the body, the joints, the ligaments, and the discs. So I'm going to make sure that we're doing these things correctly. Go ahead, take an inhale and lengthen as you come up. And then we'll draw the legs up and stretch the legs out for a moment. And as you stretch the legs out, just kind of notice your legs tend to turn out like this. So that can be, part of this issue that I'm talking about. You want to be able to keep the legs neutral when we're doing these straight leg forward folds, which we're going to do quite a few of today. Okay, so trying some different shapes that are not straight legs initially can be helpful. But we started with that one on the back, which the legs were straight, but because we're on our back, there's a lot less strain into those lower back muscles. So it's a safer way to start to warm up those hamstrings, but now we're doing some different shapes with forward folds. We did the bound ankle, now we're going to do a cross leg. So cross your right leg in front of your left leg. Sometimes it's helpful to have a blanket underneath you. Now the higher your knees are away from the floor, the more you're going to want to sit up onto a blanket. Or 2 blankets if that's helpful for you. And then we're going to bring the feet out a little bit and flex the feet so that they're kind of right under your knees, and sit up tall for a moment. Okay. So initially, let's press the heels away from center. So I'm going to press my heels and draw my toes back. So my right heel is pressing toward the left, my left heel is pressing toward the right. I'm drawing my toes back, and I'm feeling that right in the area of my sit bones, which is where our hamstrings attach to the bone. And then release that. We're going to do the opposite now. Press down into the pinky edges of your feet and try to pull your feet apart. So we're pulling now the right knee to the right, the left knee to the left. Again, I feel a slight different sensation. A little bit lower for me, might be different for you. And then relax. Okay, so we're going to repeat that while we're in a forward fold. So if it's challenging for you to hinge from your hips, you can continue to work in an upright position. So as we fold, remember we're not going to fold here at our waist, get all congested in our neck and shoulders. We're going to keep space here. So I'm going to call this bracing and spacing. Learned this from one of my teachers, Bernie Clark. So I'm going to put my thumbs around my top ribs under my chest and my pinky fingers around toward the bottom ribs, and then I'm not going to let that space shorten. Okay, so if it shortens, I'm doing it wrong. So I'm going to keep that spacing and try to fold forward. Now as soon as I lose that spacing, I've gone too far. So try that a few times, coming forward without losing that space. Good. So now we're going to try it again, and then we're going to hold it. But before we do, if you haven't done so, it's helpful for me to pull my sit bones apart. So as I pull the sit bones apart, it helps me get a greater degree of grounding, but it also facilitates the movement, the tipping of the pelvis. You want to feel like your sit bones are kind of behind you a little bit, like you're still on the top of them. But as you fold, we change so that the sit bones start to tip back a little bit, okay? So let's try bracing and spacing. Lift your chest, lift your ribs, lengthen your spine, keep the belly toned. As you exhale, starting to hinge forward, feeling the pelvis starting to rotate, and then when you feel like you've had enough, you're going to place your hands down on the floor. Okay, so now as we hold this, push through your heels, push the heels away, and pull your toes back. And for me, that tends to give me a little more space to fold forward. Now, release that and try to pull your feet apart. Now I get that a little bit more in my outer hip now while I'm in this forward fold. Pull the legs apart and then relax that. Now we're going to do the back bend before the forward bend. So inhale, come up, arch your back. Remember when we're on our back. Feel your spinal muscles move in, contract, and now fold forward. We're going to do that again. Inhale, come up high on your tiptoes, or tippy fingers, and arch your back, and then exhale, walk it out, fold forward. One more time, inhale, come up, and exhale, walk out. Now in this final position, let your head drop a little bit between your arms. I want you to stay for another breath or two. I'm coming out. But I want you to really breathe into your rib cage, into your back ribs. This is really nice and calming for our adrenals and our kidneys as we do this forward fold. So direct some breath back into your back ribs. And when you're ready, we'll start to come out with an inhale, starting to lengthen the spine. Gently, carefully walk your hands back up. Good, lean back and stretch those legs out for a moment. However they're comfortable, maybe bounce them out, roll it out, jiggle it out, windshield wipers, whatever feels good. Okay, let's try the other side. Cross the left leg in front. We've got to do both sides. Widen your sit bones. Pull your sit bones back behind you so your pelvis is freer to rotate. Flex the feet, draw the toes back, bracing and spacing. Inhale, lift, lengthen your spine. Exhale, coming forward. And when you start to lose that spacing, that's where you need to back out a little bit and put your hands down on the floor. Okay, first, push through your heels, spread your toes back, and see if you can tip your pelvis. Good. Now, pull the legs apart and continue that folding. You can always stop at any point, staying higher. And now let the legs relax a little bit. Inhale, lift up into that back bend before the forward bend. Arch your back. Exhale, walk out any amount. Let's do that a few more times. Inhale, lift up into that back bend. Exhale. 2 more times on your own, and just being very mindful of your breath. So you're staying in it. If the breath is smooth and easy, we're doing okay. If we're really labored and we can't breathe, maybe we've gone too far. And now as you inhale, maintain the length of your spine and even the lumbar. And as you exhale, draw your lower belly in toward your spine. Last breath. And then on an inhale, slowly start to bring yourself out. Good. Lean back, stretch those legs out again, and wiggle, jiggle, get some circulation in there. Maybe rub the knees down a little bit. And then we're gonna come into tabletop pose. So we're gonna use a block between our inner thighs. And the reason for this is that strengthening of our adductors, right? So again, we talked about these external rotators that want to turn our legs open, turn us into those duck feet that narrows our lower back. So by strengthening the adductors between the inner thighs, that can help us keep our legs neutral when we forward fold. So tabletop pose. And you might wish for a blanket under your knees, depending on what surfaces you have at home. And then let's take this block between the inner thighs and come into our table. So we'll do cat-cows, working the adductors with the block. So take an inhale, exhale and round. We're going to squeeze the block and shift the block forward as if our nose could touch the block. And as we inhale now, we're going to move the block and the crown of the head away from each other. So we're tipping the pelvis back, spreading the sit bones apart, and then exhale, pull it in and round. Squeeze the block, hollow your belly. Do a few more cycles. Inhale. Think about your pelvic floor moving back. And then exhale, it moves forward. 2 more rounds. Inhale, the block moves back, pelvic floor back, arch your back. Exhale and round. 1 more time. Inhale. And exhale. Inhale into neutral and remove your block. We're going to take the knees apart and just come into a brief child's pose. And stretch your arms forward, let your head come down. So even child's pose is a forward bend, right? So we're hinging over our hips. So let's work on the forward bend here a bit. Come up high onto your hands, lift your chest. Lift up just a little bit and try to tip your pelvis back, tip your sit bones back. And then as you move your sit bones back towards your heels, move your pelvic floor back towards your heels, tipping it back, and then reaching your arms forward. Now back bend before the forward bend, come up high on those hands again, lift your chest, arch your back, pull your fingers back to find spinal extension, and then come back down and melt. Hold another breath. All right, so from here we're going to start to walk the hands back, and we're going to do a little foot stretch. So for some of us, this is torture. So if it is for you, feel free to just skip this part. We're going to tuck the toes under. And I'm going to go modification. So you could just do tabletop with your toes tucked under. You could start to walk your hands back. My feet are together. My toes are tucked under. So kind of go with whatever version feels best. Stay in table, walk back. Some of you are going to now come all the way up. And my toes are tucked under. I'm getting a little stretch to my feet. Try to keep your heels together and lift your chest. So opening up this back chain of the body, starting with our feet. And then from here, let your chest really lift and drop your chin a little bit and lengthen the back of your neck. Lift your skull away from the base of your neck. So that's another area of that fascia that runs through our back body. One more breath here. And then we'll slowly release. All right, so if you have a blanket, we're going to take that out of the way now. And we'll come back into tabletop pose. Back into tabletop pose. I just want to make sure that you can see me here. Okay. So we're going to come back into our cow pose, but we're going to do it with toes tucked. We're going to lift the chest, and you can feel that your lower back is in. So we've got a little curve there. Now we're going to move the hips, the sit bones back as if we're going to come to child's pose, keeping that little curve, and then lift the knees, lift into a dog, and try to keep that low back in. A lot of times when our hamstrings are tight and we try to straighten our legs and put our heels down, our lower back rounds. Not so good here. So keep the bend in the knees, keep that low back in. Now let's repeat that. Knees down, inhale, look up, the low back is in. Exhale, move back, lift up to dog, and keep that curve in your lower back. 2 more on your own. So even down dog is a bit of a forward fold, right? We're hinging at our hip creases. Next time you come into your dog, we're going to stay there. And we'll work our dog a little bit. Okay, so again, if I were to put my heels down straight, my legs, my back would tend to round more. So for everyone, initially I'm going to have you all bend your knees. So this is like a high dog, okay? High heel dog. Your heels are off the ground, lifting high, high up. Your hip creases are lifting high, your sit bones are high. You're pushing into your hands, and now let your head drop between your hands. And see if you can tip your sit bones up higher, keeping that low back in, and let your spine traction. Head is heavy, but the arms are supporting you. Firming the shoulders in. Hold another breath. Try to move your pelvic floor back. And then release. Knees down and take a child's pose again. All right? And then just hold it there in your child's pose for a few breaths. I had you upside down for a little bit. We're going to go through some sun salutations next just to warm the body up some more. Okay, so let's try that again, and now we're going to move through it. Back to tabletop pose. Inhale, cow pose. Exhale, down dog with that curve in your back. Draw your belly in and then inhale into plank pose, top of a push-up, adjust your feet. And then option to drop your knees, chest forward, belly in, lower all the way down. Press into the tops of your feet, pull your hands back, pull your chest forward and up into a back bend. Traction your spine now. Lift your chest, shoulders back. And then release. Downward facing dog. Tuck your toes, hip creases back, and then launch into your dog. So it's a slightly different approach, but keeps our spine nice and long. From here, walking your feet to meet your hands. So now this is a forward fold, Uttanasana. We're going to keep those knees bent because it's our first one, and fold forward. We'll work on that more later, keeping those knees bent. Inhale, rise up to stand. And then exhale, draw your hands to your heart. rounds of sun salutations, and we want to keep in mind when we do our forward folds, we want to make sure we're hinging at our hip creases, keeping that bracing and spacing so we're not rounding our spine, and keeping some bend in the knees as is appropriate for you. Okay? So, standing in mountain pose, reach through your fingers, lift your chest, open your collarbones. Inhale, reach up, up, up. Go in as much length as we can before we fold. And now a little bend in the knees, fold forward. And if you can't quite reach the floor, bring your hands onto your shins or your ankles. Uttanasana, the sit bones are lifting and as you forward fold. We're going to come into the halfway lift, hands onto your thighs, chest parallels with the floor, and then plant your hands, step back, plank pose. Lower down, you can hug those elbows in, you can drop knees if you wish. Tops of the feet press down strongly, shoulders back, cobra. Down dog, let's do that low approach. Tuck your toes, push with your hands, lift up, down dog. High heel down dog, lift your sit bones up, tip your sit bones up. As if your pelvis could lift off your legs, toning your belly. And then look forward, walk your feet to meet your hands. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, fold. So we're going to add in some forward folds into our sun sals. Widen your feet. Keep your knees in line with your ankles and bend your knees. We're going to try and keep the belly on the thighs and the chest in a little bit of a back bend. So we want to feel a little bit of upper spine in. And then let your head drop. Now you might have hands on shins, ankles, or blocks here, that's fine. I'm going to ask you to root down into your feet and then lift your sit bones up, tip your pelvis up, and as you push the floor away with your feet, feel like your pelvis is going to lift off your legs. Now this might be a lot more bent for you, and that's fine. Stay with what works in your own body. Now a little bend in the knees, inhale, reach all the way up. Exhale, bring your hands to your heart and pause. And as we move slowly for this first round, you can just kind of notice the energetic effect of staying a little longer in that forward fold. Let's go through now another round, a little bit faster. Inhale, reach up, lengthen, lengthen. Exhale, fold, bending the knees, bracing and spacing, so not changing anything here in my torso. Inhale, halfway lift, lengthen your spine. Plant your hands, step back, plank pose. Lower down, keeping the chest reaching forward. Inhale, cobra pose. Exhale, low approach, down dog. Sit bones back, lift up. And as you hold here, move your pelvic floor back, away from your head. From your arms, big inhale, exhale, walk your feet forward, top of the mat. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, fold forward. Now we're going to stay again in the forward fold. Back up a little bit. Now if it's available to you, we're going to bend the knees and hook the big toes with your first two fingers, your peace fingers. Hook your big toes. If it's not accessible, stay where you can. Shins or ankles are fine, thighs are fine. Okay, so I'm going to bend the knees a little bit, tip the sit bones up. Push the floor away, tone the belly. Think about your pelvis lifting off your legs. And then your elbows might bend toward the sides. as your head comes down. Breathing here. And find a tiny back bend in your chest. So very small. And then little bend in your knees. And then let's inhale, come all the way up. Exhale, bring your hands to your heart. Excuse me. I'm tickled today. Okay. So when you grab the strap again, there it is. You're going to make your loop a little bit bigger. It's going to be about one leg's distance. We're going to take it behind us and put your heels on the strap. So I've got to make it a little bit bigger. Okay. So I'm holding the loop behind me and I'm going to stand on the strap. Okay? Really root that strap down with your legs and firm up your quads. Take your belly in and tailbone down and now pull on the strap. And feel that opening in your chest. Holding here. Good, now bend your knees a little bit. Hold down a little lower on your strap. Get a good grip on it. And re-extend your legs. Roll your shoulders back. So don't go so low that you can't lift your chest. And hold here. I'm going to turn these in now. Hold here for 2 more breaths. So this is accomplishing a bit of lengthening of our spine to help us with our forward folds. Opening our chest, opening our back. Try to pull your strap apart with your hands as you pin it down with your heels. Good, and release. And you can set that strap off to the side. We'll come back into our mountain pose at the top of your mat. And try to recreate that feeling of openness in the chest that we just did in that last pose. Inhale, reach your arms up. Exhale, fold forward. Bracing and spacing as you fold. Inhale, halfway lift. Step back, plank pose. You can lower all the way if you're ready for an up dog. Lower halfway. And then lift your chest, straighten your arms, lift your thighs, curl up, down dog. All right, so I'm going to inhale the right leg up. I'm going to do my left so I can be facing you. Right leg up, step through, spin your back heel down, and we're coming up into a warrior 2 to start. Square your chest toward the long side of your mat. Reach out through your arms, bend deeper into your front knee, and then pull the feet apart as if you're trying to stretch your mat. Opening up the legs and the hips here. Look over your front fingers. One more breath. And then we're going to bring hands to the hips. Straighten your front leg and parallel your feet. Okay, so here comes another forward fold. We're going to pause here and really root down into our heels, spread the toes out, zipper up through the legs, brace and space. Shoulders back, get that nice feeling of openness in your chest, and then we're going to have a little bend in the knees so we can safely hinge forward, bracing and spacing as we go. And then bring your hands down to the floor. Lift your chest, find that little back bend, and then you're going to take your hands and walk them forward. So see if you can get that feeling of the back bend, the sacrum is in a little bit, the low belly is also toned here. I mean, I'm not overdoing it in the low back. We don't want to overdo it, but we also don't want to round. So this is like down dog. Walking your hands forward, your palms can be flat or up on your fingertips. And then we're going to slightly bend the right knee and just do a little lunge, a little stretch, and then over to the other side. Bend that knee, push into the heel and pull the mat apart with your legs, making space in that area of the pelvis and the tailbone. One more each side. Pull the feet apart, which gives us a little bit more rotation. When we do fold eventually, have space there in the area of the tailbone and the pelvic floor. Okay, so now stay here. Come up high on your fingertips. Back bend. Lift your chest, curl up, and bend both knees. Pull your sit bones back. Pull your pelvic floor back. Head between your arms, lift the arm bones. And now straighten the legs, lift your chest, look up into that back bend. Exhale, bend, and move back. You might be able to walk your fingers forward more to lengthen. One more time, inhale, lift, look up. Exhale, bend, pull back. And then inhale, come back up, walk your hands back in. Bring your hands onto your hips, root down into your legs, slowly come up. From here, warrior two again, right side. Cartwheel your hands down. Step back for a down dog. Take the vinyasa if you wish, coming into your plank, taking your cobra or your up dog, meeting in down dog. I'm going to reverse my direction so I can still be facing you. Stay where you are. Right. So now inhale your left leg up and step through to warrior two. Arms at shoulder height, square your chest toward the long side of your mat. Bend deeper into your front knee. And then pull apart with your feet, like you're trying to stretch your mat. So you want to keep that pinky edge of the back foot rooting, the arch of the front foot lifting so that knee doesn't drop in. And now inhale, straighten that leg, parallel your feet. So changing it up this time. So last time was more like a down dog, so it wasn't quite as much of a fold. This time we'll work in toward the fold. Press into your heels, firm up your legs, tone the belly, brace and space the abdomen. Shoulders back. Bend the knees a little bit. Inhale, lift. Exhale, hinging forward, keeping that little curve in your lower back. And then eventually the hands come down under your shoulders. So instead of walking them out this time, keep them under your shoulders. You might wish to have blocks here. So I'll pull one in just to show you. If it's hard to reach the floor, be up on your blocks. Okay? So I'm okay. I'm going to bring my hands to the floor. I'm going to lift my toes up off the floor. Activate the arches. Zipper up all the way up the legs. Lift my sit bones up. Get that curve in my lower back. Good. Now bend the knees. Like your cow pose, inhale, arch your spine. Keep that low back in as you start to fold forward. Now you might be able to walk your hands back in line with your feet. That doesn't work. Stay where you were. Stay up on your blocks. Elbows draw towards each other. They're shoulders distance apart. We're going to bend those knees again. Inhale, look up a little bit, arch your back, and then exhale, push in your feet, lift your sit bones, zipper up your legs, and keep a little sense of back bend as you fold.
push down and apart with your feet. Now if it's available, reach out, hold your ankles. Bend the elbows toward the sides. Bend the knees again. Inhale, little arch, lift up. Exhale, lift the sit bones. Let the head descend. Pull apart with your feet. Straighten your legs to your capacity now. All right, slowly release. Walk your hands back out in front of you. Lift your chest. And then we're going to bring the hands to the hips, little bend in the knees. Come all the way up and pause. Again, notice the effect of that forward fold. And now warrior two, left side, rebend. Cartwheel your hands down. Take the vinyasa if you would like to take one. Going through your plank, your up dog, your cobra. And then we're going to meet in a child's pose. So just give yourself a moment. Some of this work can be really challenging on the nervous system. We're not used to all these engagements that we've been doing. So take your time. Have a few breaths. We're going to move on to some additional forward folds. Okay, as you're ready, you're going to come back up into tabletop pose. Inhale, arch your back. Exhale, move back with the sit bones. Lift up, down dog. Inhale, right leg straight up. Step forward. This time, warrior one. Spin the back heel down, rise up. You're going to bend deeply into that front knee. Keep the back thigh drawing back. Root into your heel. And then lift the front of your pelvis up rather than dip it down. Lift it up, tone the belly. Reach your arms. Really lift your rib cage, lift your chest, reach, reach, reach. And then keep that length as you bring your hands to your hips. We'll step the back foot in and straighten the legs. So we're setting up for our pyramid pose. Hug the inner thighs towards each other. Bracing and spacing into the abdomen. So Parsvatonasana, pyramid pose. We're going to fold over our front leg. So you might want to have your blocks handy here. They should be at the front of your mat to give yourself a little bit of a lift. So I'm going to grab mine just so I can show that. Okay. So bracing and spacing here, shoulders are back. Inhale a little back bend. Keep that little back bend as you start to hinge. Nothing's changing here in my belly. I'm not crunching into the abdomen. Hands to your blocks and bring them under your shoulders. Okay, working the halfway up shape first. Remember the block between your inner thighs. Draw the inner thighs towards center. And then tip your sit bones back. Inhale like that cow pose, a little arch in your back. You can always stay here. Or as you exhale next time, starting to hinge, and I want to keep this bracing and spacing as long as I can. Getting the belly more toward the thigh. Now here I'm going to lower the blocks or come to the floor, which is fine for me. So do what's best in your body as far as keeping that length in your spine. Inhale, find that back bend again, that little tip of the sit bones back. Move your pelvic floor back. And then exhale, start to fold. And as I fold, I'm now going to let the chin tuck and let the head drop, which will round my spine a little bit. I That's going to give me that sense of the calming of the nervous system. But I want that length first before I fold forward. Keep tipping the sit bones up. Here's another tip that's helpful for me. Push your hands into the floor or the block and try to move your sit bones back like you're doing a down dog. And if that makes you round your spine, then you've got to stay more lengthened. Okay? It's a big round. A gentle, soft round and even curve is what we're looking for. Those of you who are a little more flexible can move your chest inside your thigh, widen your front foot, and that'll take you a little deeper. All right, let's start to come out. So come up, bend into that front knee, and we're going to step back, down dog. Optional vinyasa, or a child's pose, or hold your dog. Next, inhale, left leg up, step through, coming into your warrior one. Spin that back heel down, reach your arms up. Then deeper into your front knee. And then lift the front of your pelvis. Send your back heel and back thigh back, getting it grounded. Lift, lift, lift into your chest. And then hands onto the hips. Step the back foot in a little bit so you feel like you can be stable from right to left, front to back. Hug your inner thighs. Bracing and spacing in the abdomen, little back bend, and then hinging forward. Keep that lengthening of your rib cage and your spine, and then hands onto your blocks initially. So this is to help us get more length here, to stay up on the blocks. Hug your inner thighs, tip your sit bones back, which already starts to stretch this leg for me. So you might need to keep a bend in your front knee, just a little bit. Inner thighs roll back and apart. Now you can stay here or inhale into that little bitty back bend. And then exhale, starting to lay the belly toward the thighs, starting to lower your blocks or lose your blocks. Push down with your hands so that you can lift your sit bones up higher, move your pelvic floor back and up, and fold. Plug into your front big toe mount. Try to sweep your back leg back as if you're going to sweep it off the floor, which will help you engage the back leg. Stay neutral in your legs. Again, you might widen your front foot and come inside with your chest, going a little deeper. Let your head go heavy. Now slowly coming out, bending into that front knee, and step it back, downward facing dog. So you could go for a vinyasa or a down dog hold, or let's do a child's pose. So I'm going to take the child's pose. Couple breaths. So wherever you landed, you can finish that vinyasa. Let's all meet in child's pose. We're going to be coming down onto the floor. After you've had a few breaths in child's pose, we're going to come to a seated position.
You can grab a folded blanket to sit on. Have your strap nearby in case you need it. And then we're going to take the legs out straight in front of us into staff pose. So here's where we don't want those legs to flop open. Kneecaps up, toes up, chest up. Remember that feeling of pulling on the strap, lifting your chest, opening your chest. Now, bend your knees a little bit and pull your heels towards you and arch your back. So the whole back chain of the body is engaged. Pulling the heels engages the legs, arching the back engages your back, and now release. Back up to vertical. Good. Do that again. Bend your knees, pull your heels back, back bend before the forward bend. Get the low back in, and now start to come forward. We're going to keep those knees a little bent. So you should be able to slide your hands under your knees. Pull the heels back. Inhale, arch the back. Exhale, crawl the hands forward. Inhale, arch the back. Low back in. Exhale, walk the hands forward. Now you may have come to your point of stopping, so that's where you're going to be. That's fine. Those of you who can walk it out. And then we're going to stay in this position for a moment. The heels pulling towards you, knees lifting, spine is extending. One more breath. Good. Now, those of you who want to go further, you're going to pull your sit bones back behind you. So coming out of it a little bit, pull the sit bones back so that you can feel like you can tip forward easier. Okay, before we were right on the tops of the sit bones. Pull them back. Make sure your legs are neutral. And let's do that again. Bend the knees. This time, reach your arms up. Interlace your palms. Press up. Pull your heels towards you. Lengthen, lengthen. And then exhale, hands come forward. Good. Inhale, arch your back. Pull the low back in. Exhale, walk it out. So this is a challenging way to do this pose, but it's going to be more effective in the long run. All right, now those of you who can, let your knees come to the floor. Keep your feet flexed, hands are on the floor. Try to pull your low back into your body. We're still only part way. We're not going all the way down yet. Next inhale, slowly, slowly, starting to bring yourself up and pause. So we're going to get to a relaxing version of this pose, but I want you to get a good form first to try to get as much length as you can in your spine. Okay, grab a block and put it in front of your feet. And then grab a strap and take the strap around the block. Bend your knees a little bit. Push your feet into the block. Spread your toes out. Draw your upper arms back and rotate the arms slightly open to open your chest. Feel that arch in your back. Arch back. Back bend before the forward bend. And now start to pull forward without yanking. It's just for stability. Coming forward, bracing and spacing. And then see if you can hold down lower on your strap or hold your block with your hands. Inhale, lift. Push your feet into the block. Engage your legs, arch your back. And now exhale, fold forward. My knees are still bent, my belly is toward my thighs. We're still in an active version. And then pull on the strap, inhale, slide back, and release. Okay, are you ready to relax yet? Let's try it. So, we're gonna have a blanket underneath ask you to take another blanket. You can also use a pillow. And we're going to roll that up underneath the backs of your knees. Widen your sit bones apart. Inhale, lift your chest, shoulders back. Little back bend. And as you exhale, brace in space. Lift your belly. Hinge forward. And then here we're going to now start to come into a softer version. So you might be up higher here. You can take, if you have a bolster at home, you could put a bolster under your head. If you don't have a bolster, you can just brace yourself. You could stack up blocks. Show that to you guys. Or those of you, if you don't have props or you're maybe a deeper version of the pose, think about your sit bones pulling back, your spine reaching forward. I also have a little space between my legs. They're not all the way close. This will give me a little more room to relax into it. And now we're going to let the head get heavy and fold. So depending how far down you are, you might put a block under your head. And then the head drop. And we're opening the tissue all the way from the feet, up the backs of the legs, up your spine, into the back of your neck. Let's hold here for about 5 more breaths. Allow yourself to really relax into it as best you can, closing your eyes, feeling this sense of going within. So make sure you're in a version of the pose that really allows you to relax. You could even bend your knees more if you need to. And we're going into that calming version of Paschimottanasana. Seated forward fold, intense stretch of the west, the back of our body, in that intense stretch. I like to now let my arms be passive. Hands back, draw the belly in and slowly bring yourself back up. Take your time. Okay, keep that roll nearby. We're going to use it for Shavasana if you have that extra blanket. And then for now, no blanket, we're going to come up on a block for supported bridge. Lift your hips up and slide your block under your sacrum if you can on setting 2. If that's too much, go on setting 1. Feet are hips distance apart. Come into your robot arms. Palms face each other. Tuck your shoulder blades in a bit. And then bring your awareness to the sacrum. And think about tipping your tailbone up a little bit. Lift into each vertebra a little higher. So lift into the vertebra of your middle back, upper back. Lift your chest. Coming into a back bend, dig your elbows down, shoulders down. Press into your feet and pull your feet toward you, engaging those hamstrings. And then relax. So now to stay in your supported bridge, tailbone tips up a little bit, traction the lower back. Keep the legs neutral.
Sacrum heavy on the block. And then slide the block out. Coming down one vertebra at a time from the top of your spine. Isolate, come down one vertebra, keep the tailbone up, tailbone up. Tailbone is going to come down last. Sacrum down, tailbone down, and now release. Take your arms out, feet wide, and windshield wiper your legs side to side. Walk the feet in, hug your knees into your chest, and then rock across the sacrum a bit. Feet up, hold behind your legs or hold ankles or feet. Happy baby. Maybe a rock, maybe stay static. Whatever feels right for you in this moment. And then knees draw back into the chest. Take a couple breaths. Knees heavy into your chest. The hands on top of your knees. Helps weight those legs down, tractioning our low back. And then knees wide, hold your ankles. Again, the hands weight the feet down, let the knees drop apart. Sacrum heavy. And then knees back in, set the feet down. Grab your props. So one blanket for under your head. And that other blanket goes under the knees. Stretch the legs out. Put that support under your knees. Always use a pillow. Arms at your side. Tuck the shoulders. Coming into your Shavasana. Feeling the effects of the practice of forward folds. Sense and feel into your body, your nervous system. And let your whole back body relax into the ground now. Softening your shoulders, your spinal muscles, your lower back muscles, the belly muscles. Relax the hip flexors in the front of your body. So they took a lot of work today as well. Let's actually give them a little loving care by rubbing your hands together. Get a good warmth. You can even blow on the hands to get a little more warmth in there. And then put the hands right across your hip flexors. And let the warmth of your hands soften the tissue of the hip flexors. And then relax your arms, relax the inner thighs, and down the backs of your legs. Send the breath into the abdomen and lower back. Every breath, feeling the body melt into the ground. stay for a few more minutes. I'm going to come up out of my Shavasana. Taking a couple more moments. And of course, if you wish to stay longer in your Shavasana, that is always an option. If you would like to stay in Shavasana, go ahead and stay there. If you're willing to come out at this moment, you're going to start to gently move fingers, toes. Maybe waken with a stretch, like a yawn as you're waking up. Take all the time you need to move before coming over to your right side for a few breaths. And taking your time, press up in your own time to a comfortable seat. Or stay in your Shavasana as long as you wish. Sitting for just a moment, cross legs if it's comfortable for you, or another position. Hands rest down on your legs. Close the eyes gently and take a few breaths. Maintain a sense of Shavasana in your face and your shoulders as you follow the soft brush of the breath in and out down your spine. Inhale, noticing a spacious quality in your vertebra, the lengthening of your spine. And as you exhale, see if you can maintain some of that length in your spine. Gather the hands together in front of the heart space now. Take a deep breath in, allow the heart to lift. And as you exhale, bow your head to your heart, closing your practice. Thank you for joining me, everyone. Namaste. Alright, so I hope you enjoyed that practice. It's a different way of working our forward folds, which is a little more active, but helping us to get the most out of those poses as we can for lengthening and awakening our spine. See you next time. Thanks so much.